Everyone. We got a few more minutes here, maybe for a few more to come on in, but we're happy that all of you have been able to join us. My name is Jessica Andino, and I'm the Executive Director at the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition. And today we will have Zachary Mannheimer from Alquist 3D joining us, and he will be discussing 3D printing as affordable housing options within Johnson County. I hopefully have set up all of the Zoom items correctly. If you have any problems at any time, please let me know. I plan on allowing Zach to share his slides. So whenever you are ready, Zach, you definitely may. I believe I gave you that capability. We live in Zoom land, but sometimes it isn't the easiest thing. But Zach, if you would prefer questions during your presentation or after, whatever you're comfortable with. So I'll let you control the narrative on that part, okay?
Sure. I think, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me, Jessica. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me pull that up. Oops. Okay. Hopefully everybody can see that just okay. Great. Okay. And we can do questions at the conclusion if that's all right. I'll work through this here. So good afternoon, everyone. I am not coming to you from Johnson County. I'm coming to you from Muscatine County, where we're actively printing today. I'm over here at the Muscatine Community Foundation to steal their internet. But we're going to talk about the 3D community of the future, and that's the work that we're doing right now. So to get started here, if there's one overall trend that we have been seeing across the country right now since COVID, it's this trend of pandemic migration. And we see article after article come out about something else the of the American population and migration. And normally it's folks leaving larger places and coming to smaller communities. But when you see a place like Spokane, Washington is too expensive to live in, we know that we have problems. So what's interesting is that since 2021, cities have mostly lost population. Major cities, first cities is what we would call them. And excuse me, sorry about that. Let me turn this off. And so what has been happening from this, I think we lost, there we go. There's a lot of reasons why we have lost population, but one of the biggest ones, of course, is the issue of housing. And this is no news to any of you. And this has also been happening for a while, for the past 50 years. The coasts of our country have been oversaturated. People leave the middle, they go to the south, the east and the west coast, but then they begin to come back. You can see it play out here in the population changes over the past 50 years versus the past 10 years. It has been dramatic in terms of population loss across the country, particularly in our smaller communities and our more rural areas. You see it play out here in the congressional map. People in the Northeast, they're going south, they're going west. And it is great for people in the south and west, but it's pretty terrible for people like us here in Iowa, and we keep losing more and more population. This is a map of where people went between 2000 and 2007. They largely went to what we call second cities: Minneapolis, Kansas City, Nashville, Austin, Denver, Miami, New Orleans, Phoenix. These are the cities that gained population at the beginning of the century at almost identical rates as a place like San Francisco saw 100 years ago per capita. And so that was the trend, people going from first city to second city. And now, right before COVID, we were in the rise of the third city. And that's places like Des Moines. Cedar Rapids is on the cusp of a third city. Boise, Idaho, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Madison, Wisconsin, Raleigh, North Carolina, Birmingham, Alabama. These are the cities that were gaining that population right up until COVID hit. And then we began to see a shift. Remote work, of course, is a big driver of this, and we know that. But also, we're in this unprecedented three-headed migration monster that's happening right now. We've always had economic migration. Now we have pandemic migration, and now we have climate-based migration, people not wanting to live around where there's natural disasters all the time. And so that puts a place like Iowa, even though we have our fair share of natural disasters. My home got hit by that tornado a few weeks ago. I'm sure others were victims of that as well. we have far fewer storms than the coasts do, and we've got an abundant availability of land. It is a lower cost of living here. And of course, we have done a great job in responding to the pandemic, especially in Johnson County. So this is the small town opportunity that we're seeing. In the last year, we had record sales in smaller communities for the first time in a long time. And so we need to be recognizing that and realizing that there's many Americans looking for new places to live, work, and play. What's it going to take to get a percentage of them to come to Johnson County? But there's a piece behind this. So before COVID, we used to say people would go from first city to second city to third city. You could predict it. But now there's no more rhyme or reason. People are leaving New York City and they're going to Clarksdale, Mississippi, and everywhere in between. And there's really only two motivators that's going to make somebody choose where they're going to go. Because for the first time in our modern history, you no longer have to be attached to a major urban center to experience the best arts and culture, the best business or educational opportunities. You can do it anywhere if you have a strong broadband signal and you have an appropriate home to live in. So that's really at the base here. So we call this our community hierarchy of needs. Every community everywhere, regardless of size or location, has to deal with all of these issues. However, in smaller communities and more rural areas, we have to tackle all of these issues at once. But regardless of that, housing is at the base. Housing is, it doesn't matter how interesting your community is if you don't have anywhere to live. So housing is at the base level of all of this. And that's where we find our issue. So every time a home increases by $1,000, we displace over 150,000 American families. This is the issue that we're facing constantly throughout the country. We're 5 million homes short here in America, at least, and counting. And so this is what is really driving us to want to address it. And we believe a solution, not the only solution, but one solution is 3D printing. And with 3D printing, we believe by the end of 2024, we're going to be able to see a 30% savings versus a traditionally stick-built home. We're not there yet today, but we're headed in that direction. So with all that in mind, that's why we created Alquist, to directly respond to all of these issues that we were seeing constantly popping up and going away. So in that regard, inventory for homes for sale is at historical lows. The prices keep going up. We just surpassed $400,000 as the median home price that displaces most folks in America. And then we have the next generation of millennials that are interested in some other things than other things, such as this last data point on this slide that I'll just leave there for your viewing pleasure. So here's what's also interesting behind all of this is that 3D printed homes are not necessarily new. This is a video from 1934. This is basically how we do our 3D printing with concrete right now, except that we don't stand on a hopper and direct our scaffold and dump the material directly into the hopper. We have a much more efficient system of doing that. But this is basically how we 3D print a home today. Now, we at Alquist know that when we're going to be truly successful, it's when we finish our homes and when we're done, that we can nail the choreography like these three guys nail right here. Pretty remarkable, amazing. So here was printed. We started in Virginia. We're based in Iowa City, of course, but we started printing in Virginia because we collaborated with Virginia Tech University and from the state of Virginia to print the first home. So this one was with Habitat for Humanity in Williamsburg, Virginia. This became the first ever 3D printed home in the world to be owner occupied. So this is the home. It is a 1,300 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath, single-story slab on grade home in Williamsburg. All we did was print the exterior walls of the home. The rest of the home is constructed entirely the same as you would build any other home. We still need all the plumbers, electricians, carpenters, roofers, etc. All worked on this home with the exception of the exterior walls. The inside of the home, the homeowner chose to put up drywall and fur out the walls over the concrete. You don't have to do that, of course, but she chose to. But walking into this home, you would never know that it was 3D printed. So here's a short video of those walls being printed. Looks like the internet is taking its time here. Seeing here is the machine that's printing the two sides of the wall. The wall is got a 2-inch 2 inches on either side with a 6-inch gap. Inside that gap between the wall systems here is where we insulate and we put our electrical. I'll show you some images of that here in a moment. Sorry, I don't think the video was able to play there, but I have a few others that will show you. So it took us about 22 hours to print that home, over a week and a half. Today, we're doing it at about 20 hours in under a week. We keep getting more efficient. According to Habitat, we saved 10 to 15% off of what they normally would have spent had they constructed this traditionally. The home is Earthcraft certified. We put Raspberry Pi sensors in all the wall systems. So we're reading whether there's ever any moisture buildup or any shifting or vibrations of the walls themselves. Thankfully, in almost 2 years now, a little over 2 years, there's been no issue whatsoever with this home. Home number 2 was up the road in Richmond. This one was a little bit bigger. This was the collaboration with lots of different groups on this project. This is the home, a 1,550 square foot, single story slab on grade home, 3-bed, 2-bath, very similar design. It was important to us to design these homes so they fit in the neighborhood where they are. That was crucial to us. We can do futuristic, fun, crazy designs, but we wanted to make sure that this technology would be adopted early on. And the best way to do that is to make a home look like a home. So that's how we landed on our designs. This home, we did not smooth out the walls like the other home. This is the look of those walls if we didn't touch it. But I'll show you some other looks to those walls as well. Homes 3 and 4, we finished in December last year, the print, and then those homes are being they should be moved into, I believe, in about a week and a half in Virginia, Newport News. So these homes, see if we can get this video to play here. These homes, we use a different printer. This is a Black Buffalo large scale industrial gantry style printer. This printer is enormous, as you can see here. It's on a track system. It's a great printer, but it does cost a lot to move. It takes over a week to set up and calibrate, and it does not print out as quickly as we would like. So I'm moving away from that. I'll show you where we're going. That printer helped print these 2 homes here. The first time we did 2 homes side by side in Newport News. See here how we do the wall system. So these whites, the wall, are 3 inches wide. This is a 6-inch gap. Inside the gap, this is where what you're seeing here is at the 3-foot mark. We stop there when we get to the base of the window systems. And that's when the electricians come in and they lay the conduit like you see here. We also put reinforced steel ladder systems every 12 inches, and we can use rebar if we need to. We also put it all thread that goes directly into the footing and connects directly into the top of the bond beam at the top of the wall system. So we've got great structural integrity. And then we grout out these mini columns like you see here below the window systems for extra structural stability. So after the electricians come in and put their conduit in, we cut out the junction boxes and sockets into the concrete in real time when it's still wet. The electricians finish their job, and then we come back and we keep printing straight on up. Here's a look at the 2 homes when they were finished side by side in Newport News. So you can see here, the plumbing then gets put into the center there, and then we lay the slab. Keep moving here. So here are the advantages of 3D printing as we know it today. The first 3 here are your capital savings. First of all, time. We can reduce the overall time to frame out a home by 2 to 4 weeks. Once we get moving, this is a scale game. After we print 1 or 2 homes on a job site, and we're printing up to 5 to 10 more, we can go incredibly fast. That is the goal. So we're moving quickly there. We need less labor on site. We only need about 2 to 3 humans on site to run the printer. And the material cost typically is less expensive than using traditional lumber. And we need to constantly lower that cost. I'll talk about how we're doing that in a moment. But you add all that up, today, if we're just printing 1 house, the costs are pretty comparable to a regular stick-built home. When we're printing 10 or more homes, we can get to a 5 to 10% savings. When we're printing 25 or more is when we're seeing a 20% savings or more already right now, and we keep getting better. I'll show you that. The energy, these homes are thermally broken, and so we use 50% less energy in a 3D concrete printed home than a stick-built home. So another major savings right there because the walls are thermally broken. 80% less waste on site. The wall systems are going to last forever. These are concrete, and we can stand up to 175-mile-per-hour winds, as well as most major storms. These homes don't burn. There's a lot of positives to how we can build out these homes. The plan right now for Iowa, we're in Muscatine right now. Tomorrow is day one of the first home. We're printing 10 homes here in Muscatine. Then we're going to be printing on the western side of the state in Lenox and Malvern. And then, of course, we're coming to Iowa City later this fall, where we're going to attempt the first ever two-story that we've done, a two-story sixplex that we're working on in Iowa City. Here's how it works. You design the home like you would any other home. That CAD file gets turned into a G-code file, which is what talks to the printer. We mix our material on site. That gets pumped through a hose to the print nozzle, and we lay out the home layer by layer. We got lots of press for this from all over the world, which is exciting, of course, but that's not why we do this, but it was exciting. Here are the changes that have to happen in the industry in order to really achieve the cost savings that we're trying to get. Many of these are underway now that we'll be using in Johnson County. First of all, the machines. You see here on the top right, that is a robot arm. That is the printer that we have here on site in Muscatine. It is also the printer we'll use in Iowa City. This printer allows us greater flexibility. It moves 3 times faster than the gantry systems and is much more efficient. This is going to help drive our costs down. Experience is a big problem. Hiring is a big problem. There's no program training people. So to that end, we've created one. I'll talk about that in a moment. Making the material locally is the #1 thing we could do to drop our cost. So we're already doing that here in Muscatine, where we're using local sand and gravel and cement from Davenport. And then we're bringing in our additives. The next step for us, and we'll hopefully have this figured out by the time the Iowa City project rolls around, is to source our additives locally, and we can really get these costs down super low. From a mobility standpoint, this is the printer we're using here in Muscatine, and we'll bring to Johnson County. As you can see, it's incredibly mobile and it's remote controlled. So it runs on the chassis system, but then we add rails to either side to print the home. So the way that we're going to be doing that here, I'll move that past here real quick. I thought that, there we go. So this printer can be pulled by a pickup truck on a flatbed. The other big gantry printers you saw earlier require 3 tractor trailers to move them around. It's not efficient yet. This is the better way to go. The way we're going to print these homes here in Muscatine, as you can see here, is to home. So we're in the track system, and that's how we print. So the first part is the north wall here in purple. Then we move the printer down here. We print this side of the wall, and then we put the printer in the back to print the garage. Much more efficient system. We can control the aesthetics even better. And we love this robot arm versus the gantry printer we're using. Here's some looks of what the wall designs can look like. We can smooth the walls out like you see here in the center, or we can do some fun designs with these other images. Your inside wall can be different than your outside wall. It's just the swap of a nozzle head. It's no problem. And then, of course, you would paint these walls any color that you like. We're also working on new materials. Concrete's great, but it's far from the most environmentally friendly. We know that. So we're working on making a hempcrete, as well as using geopolymers, recycled glass, recycled plastic. It's a brave new world in material design. And by this time next year, there's going to be several other products available on the market that are much more environmentally friendly. Our goal is to get to carbon negative. So we have a couple of strategic partnerships. We work closely with Atlas Community Studios, which is another group I'm involved with. They do strategic planning and economic development and creative placemaking. Atlas has been at this for 12 years all over the country. This is a list of where they've been working. They're based in Des Moines, and we work closely with them when it comes to community engagement. RIC Technology is the maker of our printer. We are first in line for any time we want a printer. It only takes 90 days to get it. This is the robot arm. They've been printing in China for 8 years, and they're now having a Los Angeles-based operation. And we are one of the first groups in America to use their printer here, and it's super exciting. We also developed the lease and license program. So for people that want to get into this, they can lease or the printer for anywhere from 3 months to 36 months. And it comes with our team coming and training them. They can buy it, of course. You can lease it for a period of time. And if you choose to buy it, they knock off the price for what you've already paid in the lease. No one else is doing this. This allows people to really test out whether 3D is going to be for them. We are partnering with Mavericks Renewables. They put solar panels on the home roofs and EV chargers in the garages. And then Duracell is our partner on the battery front. For an added cost, you can put a battery directly into your home and become net zero right out of the gate. So here's where we see things going in the future. First of all, I want to mention why we're called Alquist. My background is in theater, so of course it makes total sense that I run a construction company. But Alquist is the name of a character from a 1920 Czechoslovakian play that no one's ever heard of called RUR. This is the piece of literature that coined the term robot. This is where robot comes from. So the plot of the show is man invents robots to speed up his manufacturing facility. The robots don't like how they're being treated. They rise up and they kill all the humans. Spoiler alert. But they leave one human alive, and that's Alquist, who's the main engineer, who's the only person in the play who believes that robots and humans can coexist together peacefully. He's spared by the robots and charged with rebooting the human race. We're called Alquist as a reminder that we are using automation to replace some human jobs of framers. Now, we know that that's happening, but we can create far more jobs, which is why we believe heavily in a workforce development program. To that end, we have created an 8-week certificate course that's going to be debuting this fall at Muscatine Community College. This will be the first training program for 3D concrete printing in the country, and it's going to happen right here in Iowa, and we're going to be able to pull our talent directly from that. We believe this is a gateway to create hundreds of jobs and get young people back into the trades. And we want to start really young. When kids are really young on the job site, we want to get them. I'm kidding. These are my kids. So historically, innovative people have taken their ideas to larger populations. They leave the smaller areas, they go to the big ones. That doesn't have to happen anymore. We can reverse that. And Johnson County is a wonderful place to start that process. We think housing will be made more affordable through 3D printing. This is April Stringfield and her son Xavion. They're the homeowners of our first home there in Williamsburg. We're not just printing houses. We can print anything made out of concrete. Underground culverts, parking structures, landscape architecture, elevator shafts, retaining walls, anything made out of concrete. My wife gets tired of us driving around and me pointing and saying, we can print that, we can print that. We're doing all of those things right now. We've got designs across the board. We also believe in a new approach to home and repair. Every Alquist home comes with your own personal 3D printer built into your kitchen, just like a microwave. And we're doing that to help stand up the industry, but also we give the homeowner a jump drive of designs. In the future, you're not going to go to the hardware store if you want to make a repair or change the look of something. You're going to go on, you're going to download a file, and you're going to print it out yourself. And what you're about to see being printed here is a light switch cover. It took us about 40 minutes to print it, and it cost about 17 cents. And oh, there we go. So we are printing all switch covers, all doorknobs, drawer pulls, and sink faucets in the homes right now. We're going to be graduating to be printing the kitchen cabinets and kitchen islands and so many other pieces of the home. All of it can be printed in glass and metal. We're printing in chocolate. It's a brave new world for printing as well. So what's next for us is a lot more R&D with academic institutions. We're working closely with Iowa State as well as Muscatine Community College. We're creating a locally sourced material. We're getting the workforce development program up and running. And of course, we have our projects throughout Iowa and several other in Missouri that we're working on now. But we really want to be printing in Johnson County, be above and beyond the Iowa City project. And we're excited about the future of where this is headed. Here's just a list of where several states that we are printing in. We have licensees in Texas and Canada. A few other ones will be coming on board here soon. But the overall look at this is that 15 million Americans are on the move right now. We should be getting a percentage of them to move to Johnson County to help us grow. In order to do that, we're going to need housing at all levels, from affordable up to market rate. And this is just a list of small towns I've been to over the past year. And whether I'm in rural New Hampshire or rural North Dakota or rural Mississippi, they all have the same problems: housing. Housing is the great equalizer, and we'd like to solve this together. I'd like to close with a quote from one of my mentors, Richard Florida, and he says, "The remote work revolution promises to change the way that Americans work and live. It will allow smaller cities, suburbs, and rural areas to compete with the superstar cities on the basis of price and amenities. It will shift the main thrust of economic development from paying incentives to big employers to investing in building up a community's quality of life. As communities attract more remote workers, their tax bases will grow, allowing them to improve schools and public services, benefiting everyone. Eventually, companies will come too. That holds out the possibility of a better, virtuous circle of economic development. I could not agree more. This is what drives us every day. And thank you so much for the opportunity to present this afternoon. And I'll pause there and stop sharing my screen and see, Jessica, if anyone has any questions.
Wonderful. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to hit the unmute. If you can put your camera on as well, we'd love to see you. If not, that's okay as well. And we'll just take questions in order that are received.
Zach, I have a question. Steve Eggleston with HUD.
Hey, Steve.
One of the things I know for a fact is FHA mortgage insurance uses banks to underwrite a loan. The banks use local codes to underwrite that loan. Have you figured out how local inspectors are going to be able to look at this and understand what they're looking at in terms of the wall structures so that we can get FHA loans on these homes?
Yes. The bottom line here is that, so we get lots of questions about codes. The good news is that we had no issues getting past code or getting permitted anywhere we've gone, and nor have we had to make any significant changes to code. At the end of the day, this is concrete. And we've been using concrete to build structures for hundreds of years. The only difference is our concrete is significantly stronger. So the answer to your question is, at the local level, once they get comfortable with the material design of what we're using, and we pass our slump test and do everything else like that, which we would do anyway, that's when they're going to get on board.
Outstanding. Thank you.
I know there's more questions. There's some very familiar names on this list. And Zachary, if you don't know many of them, they will probably reach out to you individually to get to know you. But Lindsay asks, is this presentation going to be available somewhere? And this is recorded, Lindsay. And so, Zach, if that's okay, we'll be putting it on our on our Facebook and other places, including our website, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you in Johnson County, I am available to meet in person. Imagine that. At any point, we're really doubling down here in Iowa. We were printing for the last 2 years in Virginia. My family made it very clear to me that they do not wish to move to Virginia, nor do I. So we're sticking around, and we want to work with others in Johnson County. That's really where we'd like to be building. So this is we're in the early days of 3D right now, which is exciting. I would say we're at robot 3.0 and material 2.0 globally. You know, there's only about 40 companies globally doing this work. We all know each other. We all sort of play nicely in the sandbox, most of us. It's really the beginning of a new era of construction. And that's what really excites me, the amount of jobs that we can create, the economic development we can spur. And of course, how do we get back to the American dream of having folks be able to afford their homes?
Yeah, wonderfully stated, Zach. I know that a few on here may have questions specifically related to where is the 3D site in Iowa City going to be, and what are your plans there? If you want to share a little bit more details about the local context, that would be wonderful as well.
Sure. So I don't have the address offhand, but I can tell you it's on the east side of town. So we're working with Caddy Gerlach at Better Together. They are the developer for the project, and it's a team of us, Hodge Construction, Neumann Monson is doing the architecture, and Axiom is doing the structural engineering for the project. So we're all working very closely together. We talk every week. We had a meeting yesterday or 2 days ago. And so at this point, it looks like this fall is when we're going to start the project. There's still some more things to figure out. This is the first time we've ever gone vertical. So this is an exciting challenge for us that we're working through. And what's going to be great about this is this technology really lends itself to multifamily housing. And so once we get through this one, we're going to have a really strong idea of how to do future projects and continue to drive down cost. So if people have questions about that, I'm happy to answer anything about that project. But also I would invite anyone, if you want to see live printing, we're going to be printing every weekday starting tomorrow in Muscatine through the 4th of July holiday. So if there's and as long as the weather's okay. If anyone's interested in coming out, just shoot me a note ahead of time, and then I can meet with you and we can go down to the site and see it.
Could you just answer how the cost compared to what the same structure would be if you didn't use this process?
So that's a moving target question, but I would tell you that we know what our cost. Every time we get asked this, people want to know what's the difference between a 3D printed house and a regular home. And the problem with answering that is that we're not developers. So we can just tell you what our cost is for the wall systems. The rest of it's entirely dependent on the GC. So ideally, what we want to do, and we're talking to several groups about this, is to have the same GC on all of our prints and the same subs. So everybody gets super used to this and we can move quickly and drop down cost. But today, I'm going to give you an example of printing 20 homes. In a 20 home project, the first 2 to 3 homes, and thank you, Jessica, yes, general contractor. The first 2 to 3 homes are probably going to come in somewhere in the ballpark of $13 or $14 a square foot for the 3D portion, not the rest of the home, just the wall systems, which is basically on par, maybe a little bit less than stick built. When we get past home 5, and it might even be before that, but we're being conservative. When we're looking at homes 5 through 15, we're getting down to somewhere in the ballpark of $9 to $11 per square foot. When we're printing 20 homes or more, we can get down below $9 a square foot, as low as $7.50 a square foot if we have a very large project. So this is a scale game. So that's really when we're going to begin seeing those savings. Right now, the major benefits, if you're just printing one home, obviously, it's basically on par with cost, maybe a little bit of savings, but you're going to have a significant savings in energy usage. And the home itself is going to stand up to storms. It's a much better system. It's a high quality product. But in the next 2 years is when we're going to be able to see, when you're printing one home, significant reduction in costs.
Zach, this is Laura Burgess. I'm a city councilor here in Iowa City. And I'm just a couple of things. Number one, for the other cities who are on this call, I just wanted to note that for this Johnson County project, this was a lot that was owned by the city of Iowa City and sold to Better Together for their development. And then my question for you, Zach, so I encourage every other city to, think about the real estate that they have and leverage their resources towards this kind of build as well. The question I have for you, Zach, is let's say there is an area where I'm thinking of our growing communities in Johnson County where there is a development that's already been approved for a certain type of housing. If there was a developer who wanted to engage with you on the possibility of lots of those homes or some of those homes being built with this technology, how would they go about doing that?
So they would just reach out to me directly and we can start engaging on what that would be. I would love to do that. So, a good projects where if you're doing a large community, say there's a 100 home community project somebody's doing, obviously we'd love to do the whole thing, but we're happy to come in and do 20% of it, something like that. We understand this is a new technology that people need to get used to. I would encourage everybody to come out to Muscatine sometime over the next month and see it. Once you see it, it clicks, you get it, and you understand why this is efficient and really the possibilities of what you can do with this technology. But it would be terrific to work with other cities. I have spent 25 years in the nonprofit sector working with local communities, so we know how to do that. We love doing that. And yes, if there's an opportunity with land that a city might own that they are struggling to figure out what to do with, we're a great group to bring in and with our partners to get something done.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Zach, it's Steve Gordon. How's it going?
Hey, Steve. Good to see you.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for doing the presentation. On those cost savings, you mentioned, you get up to 20 houses or so. Is that, does that have to be the same house plan on all 20 houses, or is it more driven by location and time frame that gives you the savings?
That's a great question. It's more driven by location. So no, we don't want to do cookie cutter. So what's great about this technology is that we could be printing 10 homes in a row. All of them can be completely different designs. It's just a change of a computer program. So it doesn't really add any additional cost unless, of course, you're changing the size and square footage. But the look of the home can be completely different side by side. And that has no effect on the any added expense. It's really about how many are we doing.
Okay, great.
And could you just talk, you probably did, I missed it, the time frame, how long it takes you to put up one of these?
Yeah, so conservatively, I would say, and so I'll tell you what we're doing here in Muscatine. The first home is going to take us about a week and a half to print, about 20 to 22 hours of active print time. The second home should take us about a week. And then after that, homes 3 through 10 should only take us a couple of days, hopefully down to 2 days to do the print. It's about acclimate, that's where most of the expense here is on the front end of mobilization and getting acclimated to the climate. So the first homes we have to print slower because we need to get acclimated to the weather. Once we figure that out, which typically happens in the first home, we can really run with it.
Hi, Zach. It's Ellen from the Trust Fund. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ellen?
Good. I was wondering if you could tell us about the funding for the project in Muscatine. I know people probably aren't aware that, as Laura mentioned, Councilor Burgess mentioned, there's city money. There's also $100,000 of trust fund money going to support 2 of the units. Can you talk about the funding that took place in Muscatine to make this happen?
Yeah, I mean, and this is and this has been a big group effort, and thank you, Ellen, and your world for the trust for helping us with that project. So 2 of the 6 units are meant to be affordable, which is where the trust funds are going to be going towards. The rest of it has been raising some funds from several different groups here locally. And then, of course, these homes will be sold. The goal is not to make a profit. The goal is to just ideally not lose money on this. And so I think that's where we're going to land. These are the types of projects that we really like being a part of. We got into this work because we want to build community. That is the goal. And so it's why Johnson County is so great. Local leadership has already bought into that concept of how do we help, and places like Muscatine here are as well. That's really what we're working on. So we're looking for future projects to do in a similar manner.
Do you know where the funding came from in Muscatine?
I don't know all the dollars.
Okay.
That's a Katie question, but
Okay.
we can find out for sure.
For some reason, I think that there was community foundation money involved, but
Most likely, yeah. I mean, I've been part of some of those conversations, but I've been worrying about trying to drop our cost on 3D.
got it. Thank you.
You bet.
I know we have a few people here that are from kind of our neighborhoods department, so maybe I'm going to talk about repairs. What kind of repairs would be required for these homes, and what kind of upkeep are you anticipating, Zach, if anything, I mean, such as a tornado, not going to say that word again, but would happen to come through our community?
So what's wonderful about these homes is the average PSI that we're looking at is about 7,500, which is 2 or 3 times stronger than traditional concrete. So we know that the walls are not going to get damaged. However, if there ever is damage, or if you need to get into the wall to repair the electrical, something like that, we place extra junction boxes throughout the wall system. So just like drywall, with drywall, you cut a hole in it to get in. For this, you pull off the panel and you can get into the wall system to make a repair. On the plumbing side of things, we place the plumbing on the interior wall systems, which at the moment we're not printing. Those are just normal stick built. When we do print those, which we will, we recommend doing furring out drywall on the wet walls, wherever there's plumbing, leaving everything else exposed. And so if you need to fix something with the plumbing, you would get into it just like you would with drywall.
Zach, real quick, could you talk about, right now, you're putting these all on slabs, is that correct?
That is correct, but we can do basements. I know how important that is to the folks in Iowa.
Or even crawl space if necessary, right?
Yes.
Same,
So-
same, okay.
The gantries that we were using, the big giant printers, that was almost impossible to do a basement. The robot arm has a 9.5 span length, and we can also do that over, we can extend up to 15 feet. So the printer would sit level and then the arm goes down to print the walls. The slab, there's no cost efficiency in printing a slab. We would still lay that normal.
Thank you.
I know everybody's just thinking of questions, and then if we don't give them the time, they're gonna be upset with themselves. So let's give people a few minutes here to think.
Well, I was gonna ask Steve from HUD how soon we could get some federal money on this. Thanks.
That's a great question, Ellen.
I'm gonna let Zach answer that.
Oh, really? Oh, let me put my HUD hat on.
Well, let me interrupt you, Zach. The FHA mortgage insurance is important. In terms of layering the financing, I don't see any reason why, like the home Inc., the home money that we have couldn't be used. I think it's up to the local governments that determine how to use that money. And if it fits their rules that they write out for in their annual action plan, their comprehensive plan.
Yes, and I can also tell you that 2 weeks ago, I was out in Penn State and there was a 3D conference specifically for HUD. We had lots of federal HUD representatives, and of course, the ones from Pennsylvania were there. That was a great milestone because there were multiple groups presenting, not just us, on the 3D front. And I think we answered a lot of questions like the FHA issue, Steve, in front of HUD. So I suspect that that's coming. I also think that there's going to be some action on USDA on their side as well towards this. It'd be great if both agencies worked in concert, but I know that's nearly impossible. So we'll continue to educate everybody on this. Tomorrow when we start printing here in Muscatine, we have folks from Senator Grassley and Ernst's offices will be here. We have folks from the Congressman Miller Meek's office will be there. So everybody's aware of this. And I think we just need to make a general ask. And Steve's been great, by the way, of talking to him and making sure he's updated on all the latest with this.
Hey.
One other quick question. In terms of financing, I know you're always looking for layered financing, but in terms of getting the mortgage, have you looked at the requirements for VA? We have a lot of veterans who are looking for housing. Do you know how that's going to work yet, or do we just need to get a contact so you can have a conversation with them?
Yes. So in terms of mortgages, we have successfully secured 4 mortgages for the homes in Virginia. That's been no issue. We're working pretty closely with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They have been out to our job sites in Virginia. I think we talk to them probably every 6 weeks. They were part of the presentation the 2 weeks ago at Penn State. And so they're very well aware of this. And then United Wholesale Mortgage in Michigan, they're working on being the first to have a 3D home printed mortgage product. Obviously, there's no difference. It's a marketing thing. They're trying to beat Rocket Mortgage. But they are very well ahead of the game. They've been coming out to our job sites for 2 years. And they are very deep in this. They've got a whole innovation department at United Wholesale. They're terrific. And so I expect something's going to come from that soon here as well.
Thank you, Zach.
Hey,
And
Zach,
go ahead.
on the solar panels and the battery to make a home zero energy, how much does that cost, or what's the additional cost that typically for, say, like a 1,200 square foot house?
So we're still trying to drill down on the panels. I can tell you the battery itself is around $11,000 or $12,000 for the battery. And then the panels, They range anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000, depending on what you want to do. So that's a little more subjective. It's up to the homeowner. And of course, there's tons of incentives to get yourself paid back. But if that's a desire from a homeowner, we can put them in direct contact with those groups to install that. And we can build out the home so we know that that's going to be part of the installation.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I know, Zach, we also have a very growing aging population. We are an AARP designated living community for seniors around here in Johnson County. And I wanted to see if you or your company had planned on packaging more or less these smaller homes, you know, not having to go and get your own architect, your own building plan, but more the grand scheme of things going forward. You know, you can pick plan A, plan B, plan Z in order to build your own in a, you know, ADA compliant view, or, you know, living in the same place. Do you plan on doing any sort of package deals in the future for especially these smaller homes that people would like to hopefully continue to live in Johnson County?
I mean, all of that's a possibility. We're wide open on what we want to do. I mean, our goal is to deliver the technology to Iowa. And then we need other partners to work with to really help scale this properly, working with local developers. You know, we're not developers. So we want to partner with other developers that can recognize what this technology is capable of now and what it will be capable of in the future, and work together to build that out. So a package like that sounds great. We would want to partner with somebody probably on it.
And are there health benefits from this design as far as people with asthma or mold? I mean, I live in a block house, and the north side will get mold when it's very damp.
I mean, that is a benefit, is that you will not get mold on these wall systems for sure. The other piece of this is that, you know, it's probably too early to know any other major health benefits. That needs to be studied. But for sure, mold will not grow on the concrete.
Laura, do you have any more questions about Iowa City, or High about Coralville, or Eric? I'm putting y'all on the spot for North Liberty. Does anybody else in the Johnson County area have any questions?
I don't think I have any more questions. I really appreciate the presentation, Zach, and am grateful to hear that you're looking to work with more folks. I think it's just kind of a tough balance when this technology is so new and changing so rapidly to get people on board. So just having the pitch that you were able to give in such a concise way, I think is really helpful. So definitely we'll send people your way if that's how you want us to do it.
Yeah, thank you. I would love that. And, you know, it's important to remember that it's a concrete wall. The rest of the home is still completely normal as any other home. We're just replacing the lumber with concrete. We're not pouring it in a form. We're extruding it with a giant robot. That's the weird part, and the exciting part. So again, I'd encourage everybody to come out here to Muscatine to see the print. It's really exciting and fun to do. We should have some live streams going as well, so if people can't make the trip. But that's a game changer when you can actually see it. I know, you know, I've been living with this for almost 7 years. I still get giddy when I see the printer extrude. As soon as we're done here, I'm headed off to the job site to do that. So we're very excited. We'd love to work with more folks throughout Johnson County, and that way I don't have to travel so much. I'm looking forward to that.
Wonderful. Yes, we are very excited that this is all happening within our own neighborhoods. I'm just going to quickly say thank you. Oh, if I can click the right buttons on the things. We say thank you to our partners, because without our partners that support the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition, we would not be able to bring amazing people like Zach and others that we have either to, your meetings or at least to your screens. Again, this will be recorded, so I'll be able to put it on the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition page. Zach has graciously offered to even give us a grand tour of what's going on in Muscatine. So I have all of your emails, and I can follow up with Zach about the funding mechanisms that are going on in Muscatine for those builds, and then also maybe the dates of those builds as well. If we want to carpool all together, the more the merrier, to see how we can make this technology more attainable to more of our residents in the area. And with that, Zach, do you have any closing remarks?
No, just excited to get to meet more folks and do more projects. So thanks so much, Jessica, for the opportunity to speak.